As an American, I don't like this man as a president of our country. I love being an American, but I don't feel he represents me, and I don't like that.
Most people know Letterman retired in 2015. Nobody tracked what he did in September 2025 when the administration suspended a successor, and why when he did it. The chair he sat in was the only argument he needed. The chair has a history, not the specific chair in the specific studio. The idea of a chair, in Letterman's specific vocabulary, in the specific context of what chairs mean in a late-night studio when the person who is supposed to be sitting in one is not. September 12, 2001, The Late Show. One of the 4 guest chairs on the set has been left empty, a symbolic gesture in honor of Barbara Olson, the political commentator killed on Flight 77 the previous Tuesday, a frequent guest whose absence in the chair she had occupied many times is made visible by the chair's presence without her. The empty chair is not a statement about politics. It is a statement about presence and absence, about the specific weight that an empty chair carries in a room designed to be occupied, in a medium built around the relationship between the person in the host chair and the person in the guest chair, in the format that requires both chairs to be filled for the exchange to occur. Letterman understood what chairs mean. He spent 33 years learning it, which is why in September 2025, when Trump called him overrated and a loser on Truth Social for defending Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, when the President of the United States, at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, directed a post at a 78-year-old retired television host who had been quiet for 10 years, Letterman did not respond with a statement. He did not go on television. He did not call a press conference. He did something that the 33 years had taught him was more precise than any of those responses. He sat in a chair, his own chair. In the interview he gave to the AP the following week, the interview that was not requested but offered, the specific distinction of someone who decides to speak rather than being invited to, he sat in the chair in his Montana home office. The chair he has been sitting in since 2015, the chair that is not a studio chair and not a guest chair, and not the desk chair the Late Show set, but simply a chair in a room where a man who spent 33 years in the specific architecture of the interview has decided to give one more interview on his own terms, in his own chair, about the specific situation that required him to come out of the silence he has been maintaining since May 20th, 2015. He said, "I watch what is happening to this country, and I think about the chair." The interviewer asks which chair. Any chair. The chair that gets emptied when someone is silenced. The chair that Kimmel was pulled out of. The chair that Colbert's guests were redirected away from. The chair that, and I want to be careful about this because I think precision matters, the chair that a free press sits in when it asks the question that the powerful person does not want to answer. The AP publishes the interview on a Tuesday. Trump posts about it by Tuesday evening, calling Letterman a broken-down old man who nobody watches anymore, and noting that he knew when to walk away. A reference to Letterman's 2015 retirement that is intended as a dismissal, and that Letterman, in the chair of Montana, has clearly anticipated, because the retirement is the document. May 20th, 2015, the Ed Sullivan Theater, the final Late Show, Letterman's last broadcast. Trump is not in the audience. Trump has not been on The Late Show since their relationship deteriorated across the previous decade. The 2011 cancellation, where Trump withdrew from a scheduled May 18th appearance after Letterman called him a racist on air. The letter Trump wrote calling the racist accusation deeply offensive. The specific vocabulary of a man who had done the show many times and who had benefited from a relationship and who responded to criticism from the host by withdrawing and by writing a letter that is in the archive. The letter is dated 2011. The new When to Walk Away post is dated September 2025. The distance between them is 14 years of documented public record. But the 2011 cancellation is not the first entry in the Trump-Letterman archive. The first entry is earlier and simpler and more revealing than the cancellation. Trump appeared on Letterman many times across the 1980s and 1990s. The appearances are in the archive. The specific performances of a man who understood earlier than most that the late-night chair was a platform that money could not buy, and that celebrity in the television era required a specific credibility of sitting across from a host who was trusted by the audience. Trump sat in the guest chair. Letterman hosted. The exchange produced the thing the exchange is designed to produce: visibility, warmth, the reflected credibility of a host's attention. Then, July 2015, Letterman, 1 month into his retirement, is called back, not to the Ed Sullivan Theater, to a stage at a Montclair, New Jersey event. Trump has just announced his presidential candidacy. The escalator, the speech, the campaign that will run for 5 years and then resume and then produce the presidency that is now, in September 2025, posting about Letterman on Truth Social. Letterman appears at the Montclair event and delivers a Trump-centric top 10 list. Number 6, Trump walk away from a moderately successful television show for some delusional reason. Oh, no, wait, that's me. The self-deprecation is precise. He is not attacking Trump's television career from the position of superiority. He is placing his own departure, the voluntary retirement, the choosing of silence, beside Trump's departure from The Apprentice in a specific vocabulary comparison that neither flatters nor condemns, but simply places 2 men in 2 decisions and 2 chairs beside each other and lets the audience see them simultaneously. One man walked away from the chair he had built. One man walked away from the chair he had been given. The distinction is in what each man did after the walking away. Letterman went to Montana. He grew a beard that became its own news story. He raised cattle. He came back once, in July 2015, to make a joke about himself at a New Jersey event. He came back twice in his Netflix interview series, to sit in a chair and talk to people he found interesting. Obama, Clooney, the specific guess of a man who no longer needed the architecture of late night to justify the conversation. He came back a 3rd time in September 2025, in the chair in Montana, when the President of the United States called him overrated on a Friday night, and the specific situation of Jimmy Kimmel's suspension required someone who had built the architecture to say what the architecture is for. Trump went to the White House. The September 2025 AP interview runs long. The journalist notes that Letterman seems more comfortable than in any studio interview in his 33 years. Letterman says, "Because the chair is mine. Nobody put me in this chair. Nobody can take me out of it. Nobody can call the network and say the man in this chair is saying things that are making our advertisers uncomfortable. The chair is just a chair, and what I'm saying from it is just what I think." He is asked about the Kimmel suspension directly. "I think about what it took to build that show, what it takes to sit in that chair every night and say the true thing in a way that the audience will receive and that the subject will not be able to dismiss. It's very hard. It took me 33 years to learn how to do it with any consistency. And then I think about a phone call, an implicit phone call, a pressure campaign, a sufficiently specific threat to a parent company's other interests that empties a chair in a single news cycle. And I think that is what the chair is worth to them, not what it costs to build, what it is worth to empty. Pause. And I think that tells you everything about the present moment that you need to know. Trump's post that evening calls Letterman one of the most boring men who ever sat behind a desk. He notes that Letterman had terrible ratings for most of his career and that his Netflix show was a disaster. He says Letterman is only relevant because he attacks me, and without me he would have zero audience. The post does not address the chair. It does not address the Kimmel suspension. It does not address the 2011 cancellation letter or the 2015 top 10 list, or the 33 years of the architecture, or what it costs to build a thing that a phone call can empty. It addresses ratings and Netflix numbers and the specific dependency claim that the subject of satire always makes about the satirist. You only exist because of me. The post is screenshot and placed beside the AP interview. On the left, a man in a chair in Montana, speaking about what the chair is worth to the people who want it empty. On the right, a post about Netflix numbers. The empty chair has been in Letterman's vocabulary since September 12, 2001. It means someone was here. Someone was supposed to be here. The absence of the person is made visible by the presence of the chair. The chair does not require the person to prove the person existed. It requires only that the audience look at it and understand what it held and what it costs when it is emptied. Kimmel's chair was emptied. Letterman sat in his own chair and explained what that meant. Trump posted about Netflix. The chair is still there. Both of them. The one in Montana, and the one at the Ed Sullivan Theater, and the one that Kimmel came back to after the suspension ended, and that Colbert's guests redirected away from after the cancellation. All of them in the archive. All of them occupied or emptied by forces that the man posting about Netflix numbers on a Friday evening at 11 p.m. has been applying, with a specific consistency of someone who learned in 2011 that the guest chair is a platform and that platforms which cannot be occupied can at minimum be made uncomfortable. To every chair in every studio that has said the true thing in the specific format that 33 years of late-night architecture was built to say it in, the chair is the argument. It has always been the argument. It does not require the person to be in it to make the argument. Sometimes the empty chair is the loudest thing in the room. If this changed how you see power, hit subscribe. If it didn't, watch it again. The details you missed the first time are the ones that matter most. Notifications on. Next one drops soon.